So, hello everybody. I'm Christelle Alabi, and obviously welcome to the OPA workshop or the OPA Mercury Hour rather. This is where Meghna Bhagat, I hope I pronounced your name right. I do apologize if I didn't. Please correct me afterwards. Um, the workshop today is about reclaiming our point of power, how the outer planets invite self-mastery. So in a moment, I will give an introduction on Meghna. But meanwhile, welcome everybody once again. We have got a couple of promotions that we want to suggest to you. So I'll leave that for Jeff, who's also co-hosting today, and then we'll proceed with the workshop.
So hi everyone, I'm Jeff Grunland with OPA and co-hosting here with Christelle. And I just want to let all of you know about the OPA retreat coming this October. It's going to be very special, as most all OPA retreats are. OPA hasn't had a retreat in a number of years due to the pandemic. But this is going to be very special. It's going to be in Park City, Utah, which is a very beautiful mountainous area in Utah in the United States. It's about 45 minutes from Salt Lake City. So it's quite easy to get to, and it's surrounded by the mountains and pastures, and the resort that it's taking place at is adjacent to a nature preserve, but it's also in a burgeoning town with restaurants and shops walking distance from the resort. It's called New Park Resorts. There are hot tubs on the balconies of the suites. The tracks are going to take place in two-story townhouses. And as you can see in this graphic here, hopefully, can everyone see this? First of all, I hope
Yeah,
so.
I can see it, Jeff.
Okay, great. Um, so the retreat is we have 11 track leaders and four peer group leaders, and Kay Taylor is going to be teaching consulting skills. So you have a choice. We're arriving on Wednesday, October 16th, for a meet and greet reception in the evening. The next day, Thursday, all the events begin. We're going to have 5 talks throughout the day. Sam Reynolds is the keynote speaker, and then a catered banquet dinner. And then from Friday to Sunday, 3 days of immersion tracks with you could get to choose between these 11 track leaders. And as you can see, they're incredible astrologers most of us have heard of from around the world. Really incredible options to choose from. And if you are looking to advance your certification process, you can take peer group with either Louise Eddington, Arlen Wise, Alexandra Caracostas, or Jeannie Picasso, or you can take consulting skills with Kay Taylor. And on Monday will be departure day. And I just want to remind everyone that this is an OPA retreat. What's special about them is these immersion tracks each track only has, excuse me, between 6 and 9 people. And so it's a very intimate and very special experience. And you get to mingle with everyone, including the astrologers, throughout the entire event. Sky gazing with Gemini Brett, yoga every morning. Anyway, it's just going to be absolutely special. So without further ado, I'd like to pass this back to Christelle and Meghna, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So, Meghna, you're going to have your speech, your presentation. I just want to advise everybody that if you have got any questions, please put your questions down in the Q&A box, and we can definitely get those questions answered, hopefully towards the end of the presentation. But before, Meghna, I'll hand over the baton to you. Let me just grace everybody with your bio, if that's okay. So Meghna Bhagat is an astrologer, speaker, and lifelong student. Pursuing questions, she's traversed continents, philosophies, yoga, entrepreneurism, and astrology. The heart of her work is self-acceptance, helping her clients discover their inner light, their personal power. To that end, she maintains an aspirational, choice-centered perspective, integrating evolutionary, horary, and Hellenistic astrology. So I think now it's over to you, Meghna.
Thank you so much, Christelle. I'm going to just get my screen shared. It's every time I do it, it prepares the slides before it will put them in. So welcome, everybody. I didn't realize we were going to have so many professionals because the Mercury Hour allows all of us to come in from all walks of life. So I'm hoping that some of this is going to be a different perspective on how or maybe not a different perspective, but an aspirational perspective, the way I look at astrology. Thank you so much, Christelle and Jeff, for your introduction. As you know, my name is Meghna Bhagat. I am an evolutionary, experiential, choice-centered astrologer. I'd like to begin by first thanking OPA for creating and including me in the Mercury Hour. I always start with acknowledging Stephen Forrest for showing me what's possible with astrology, to Donna Young and Kate Taylor, as well as the Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters for encouraging my voice, and to my beloved family, because without them, I would not be here. My friends, it has cost so much for so long to so many to keep astrology's flame alive. I invite us to hold gratitude for all the countless beings, known and unknown, recognized and overlooked, who have and who continue to stoke and tend the flame of astrology. And always, always, to the divine, the pulsating, throbbing source of life, for the access to this path of self-knowledge, self-creation, and self-acceptance. What a gift. What a blessing. Because all of us are continually evolving, changing, and growing, what you'll hear today is reflective of my current understanding, edited and prioritized for this time frame. Throughout the presentation, I invite you to filter what I say through your own life experience. Approach it from the spirit of imaginative play. And let's see what we discover together. If something doesn't make sense, let it marinate. Try it on. If it fits, great. If not, you can let it go. During the talk, as reflections come up or questions come up, please feel free to share them. The reflections in the chat, the questions in the Q&A button, because I want to hear your experience. And I've made a little bit of room for Q&A, so I'm hoping we get to have a conversation. I will also save the chat, so whatever you put in there, I'll get a chance to reflect on, so please feel free to do that. And for those of you who are like me and have Virgo planets and want to share deeper feedback, I'm going to put into the chat this link where you can fill in your feedback for me. I want to change you. That's not a revolution. I'm willing to change. Now this is a revolution. Sadhguru, an enlightened yogi, mystic, and a master from India, assures us that all creatures, all except humans, are tied on both ends of the spiritual evolution spectrum. It's humans, he continues, that have the safety of being closed off on one end, no danger of slipping backward while being wide open on the other. Unlimited possibility, unlimited potential. The gravitational pull of the sun, and in turn the galactic center, holds us securely in orbit, while all of space remains wide open for our exploration. And as the Hermetic aphorism reminds us, as above, so below. We too are secure, held by the spark of our own inner light, our inner sun, with unlimited possibility to grow and evolve in whatever direction our heart desires. Irene, I see your note. I don't know why you're getting that. I will have to look at that at the end. Let's stay tuned and I'll look at that at the end. The underlying premise of my work is that we are our own best experts. I see my work as an attempt to help individuals reclaim this inner expertise, their inner authority, their personal point of power. Those of us in this room who are professionals, and I know many of you are, we know astrology is powerful. You see, I fell for astrology kind of the way you see it in the movies, when two friends who've known each other for years turn to each other one day, and all of a sudden the clouds part and trumpets blare and they fall into each other's arms breathless. I had always been friends with astrology, but it wasn't until I had my first reading with Stephen Forrest that I saw the breadth and depth of what was possible with astrology, and the long-standing friendship turned into a blazing love affair. I wanted everyone I loved, everyone I knew, everyone in the world to know what it can do, to arrive at the self-acceptance that I felt through my astrological reading, a homecoming. So I dove in, voraciously consuming astrology hours and hours every day. I didn't know then that I was going to change careers, nor why I felt so compelled. I just couldn't not do it. Soon I was practicing on family and friends, and then gradually I began seeing clients. That path unfolded for me. I was filled with the zeal of the newly converted, a holy Jupiterian expansion. And now, so many years later, I'm here reflecting upon some of the things I've learned along the way. I chose this topic, the point of power, because in all these years of working with people, both formally and informally, I've had to come to terms with the limitations of what I can and cannot do in an astrological reading or consultation. Here's what I've learned. I can be a mirror, help people see themselves better, and to that end, make myself as clean and unobstructed a reflector as possible. I can do my best to interpret the language of the cosmos, which, as many of you will probably agree, is a continual work in progress. Astrology is vast. It has many mysteries and secrets, some that confound even the most experienced astrologers. And finally, I can offer some measured advice when asked in specific areas. What I cannot do is make anyone do anything they don't want to do. Francis Bacon tells us that knowledge is power. So how come all of us smartphone-wielding ninjas or astrologically savvy practitioners haven't burst into spontaneous enlightenment? It sounds ridiculous when I put it that way, but in some ways, don't we all wish there was a cure-all pill for that, for whatever ails us, physical, emotional, psychological, any unfulfilled dreams, societal ills, spiritual enlightenment even? Don't we even think of astrology as that cure-all sometimes? There's an allegorical story you may know. I first heard it from Sadhguru. It's about a king, a stereotypically arrogant and powerful king who calls his interior minister after his son returns from a walk, upset about his soiled feet. "Minister," he bellows, "all the roads of our kingdom must be immediately leathered so my son's feet remain unsoiled." The minister, having been versed in the moods of the king, waited till tempers cooled. Then gently suggested, "Sire, the cost of leathering all the roads of the kingdom would deplete the coffers. Might I suggest leathering the prince's feet instead?" No matter how hard we try, and no matter how much we may like it, paving the roads with leather, regardless of how well-intentioned, will never keep us from feeling upset about soiled feet. Isn't there a saying, the road to hell is paved with leather? I mean, good intentions. If I had $1 for every time I wished my partner or my parents, my neighbors, or the government would just act in a sane, rational way, which is, of course, my way, well, I'd be a very wealthy woman. But alas, when I need them to be different than they are in order to preserve my sanity and peace, I'm lost because I have no power over my own feelings. I become a puppet in their hands. But I'm not powerless as an astrologer. Oops. Power, as I see it, is awareness and conscious response. My point of power as an astrologer is to present counsel that is responsible, aspirational, and choice-centered. Ask questions that provoke self-inquiry, provide the larger framework of an individual's journey so they can recognize the grand context of their lives. Such a context, such a consultation can recontextualize the circumstances of our lives from the wider perspective of our unique purpose, reminding us that we're secure on one end and point to how and where the universe beckons today and tomorrow. A responsible, choice-centered astrological reading An aspirational astrological reading is one that heightens awareness, interrupts life as usual. It's an invitation to a deep, introspective, heart-to-heart dialogue with ourselves, one in which we have the choice to reclaim our inner authority, respond differently to the same circumstances today than we did yesterday. Doesn't that make us all of us individuals, the single most powerful entities in our lives? That in fact, no one can make us do anything, that we are our own bosses, the makers of our own destiny, our very own best experts. The point of power lies squarely inside of us, inside our ability to become self-aware, and then from that awareness, consciously respond. Let me say it again. Power is our ability to consciously respond. Our ability to consciously respond to whatever happens, any stimulus, any circumstance, situation, being, or thing, whether it's outside of ourselves or inside us in the form of a feeling, an idea, or a memory. Not in what we experience, nor in our attempts to leather the streets of our circumstances, but in how we experience it here, within the bounds of our experience of ourselves. Enlightened beings across culture and time have returned again and again to that sentiment. That power lies within. Lao Tzu synthesizes it beautifully. Mastering ourselves, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is power. True power. Which do you want? Strength or power? Strength requires the participation of another, willing or unwilling. Power requires only one, the one looking in the mirror of the self. And for those of us who have made the conscious decision to unlock personal power, astrology is a master key, a catalyst, a rocket ship offering both speed and distance. It serves as both guide and guardian. Astrology reflects our deepest longings, our greatest strengths, and our most tantalizing detours and pitfalls. It reveals the undeniable challenges we must face, and it offers guidance on how to navigate them. Johannes Kepler, a self-proclaimed Lutheran astrologer and the scientist who discovered the 3 laws of planetary motion, likened the heavenly motions to a continuous song, a figured music, and the natal chart or celestial imprint to the music that impels the listener to dance. That resonates. It reminds me of the Indian ragas, the foundation or the heart of classical Indian music. These 7 ragas, like our 7 classical planets, are defined by both a collection of pitches and formulas for using these pitches. Literally, rag means color, and a rag is that which colors the mind with a particular emotion. The 7 classical astrological planets and the 3 recently added to the astrological pantheon seem to reverberate with their own ragas. They color each of our lives with a particular emotion. And the more we can bring ourselves into resonance with these energies, the more symphonically our lives unfold. How the planet colors our emotions feels intuitive. Allow yourself to bring the sun into your awareness now. Can you imagine its melody, its color, its warmth? Wherever you are, whatever the position of the sun, can you tune into it? Is it hot and bright where you are? Is it cold and rainy? Is it overcast? Is it day or night or twilight? See if you can tune into the sun and its life-giving energy for just a moment. How does it feel when it shines bright? Is it too bright? Or when it's invisible, either behind clouds or shining somewhere below where you are on the other side of the earth? What is this peace and security-loving Taurus sun telling you about your own light. Invite the sun to share its message with you now. If something comes, great. If nothing comes, great. There's no pressure. Luckily, the sun rises every day and it offers its light without discrimination, equally to every one of us every single day. So you have lots and lots of opportunity for tuning into its vibe, its vibration. Take a moment, if you've received a message, to jot down a sentence or two for yourself. And if you're moved, we'd love to see it in the chat too. What if you're in a lunar moment at this hour? Or maybe you're just a lunar person. It might be easier to tune yourself into the resonance of the moon, Luna. The moon is our emotions, our attitudes, our needs. It's the irrational, the non-rational part of ourselves. Every one of us has a moon. How does the moon color your way of being? Right now, we're in a waning gibbous phase. It's still bright, but the light is slowly dimming. The moon knows this. How does that feel? Can you tune into Luna right now and her fading light? The moon is traversing the focused, results-oriented Capricorn right now. How does that feel? Do you feel drawn to act with urgency? With the waning? With the Capricorn? Or does it feel stressful? Take a moment to feel into lunar consciousness. And take a moment to jot down what comes up. Allow whatever shows up to be there. It's neither right nor wrong, neither good nor bad. It just is. And if you're drawn to share, again, please pop it into the chat. Whether you're versed in astrology or not, these two lights imprint their melodies on our souls. And because they're so close, so visible, so accessible, they can provide access to the entirety of our psyche throughout the year-long solar and the month-long lunar cycles. For the remainder of our time together, I'll touch upon some of the core ways I imagine the outer planetary energies from Jupiter to Pluto color our lives. I'll also share a few examples of celebrities who have these outer planets connected to or conjunct their natal sun or moon. When any planet conjoins either the sun or the moon, it supersizes the energy of that planet, and the colors for our identity or with the sun, or our attitudes with the moon, are imprinted very strongly with their vibe. This exploration will be brief. I hope to someday have an opportunity to expand this, to actually embody and enact these energies over days through our lived experience. But for now, a taste, an amuse-bouche. Not knowing when the dawn will come, I open every door. Stay open to joy, to opportunity, to flowering, my friends. Because up first is Jupiter, the audacity of hope. In his 2004 DNC address, Barack Obama electrified the US Democratic Party with his speech, with his hope, the audacity of hope. Hope in the face of difficulty, of uncertainty, which he called God's greatest gift to us. A belief in things not seen, a belief that there are better days ahead. The greater benefic, astrology's grantor of wishes, Jupiter's song yearns for a victory. It uncorks our greatest hopes, reveals shining horizons, and invites us to more. More for ourselves, more for our lives. Jupiter plays loudly, tugs upon our hearts to believe in ourselves. The first few times it comes around, maybe we take a leap like this person, full of abandon. It's exciting, it's breathtaking. but sometimes those hopes are dashed. Who among us has not been afraid to trust a new connection after a heartbreak, or apply for another promising opportunity after being rejected by 5 others, or dream a fresh new dream again after being disappointed one too many times? Hope is vulnerable, it's heart-opening, and it's scary. For those of us practicing astrology, we know that Jupiterian stimulus is not as clear-cut as the fairy godmother of astrology. On some occasions, if we don't have room for the beneficence of Jupiter, Jupiter will make room. It may even look like a wrecking ball through some part of our life. But not too far in the future, something more fulfilling awaits. To hope even in the face of disappointment. How many times have we looked back on our lives with gratitude at the things we thought were misfortunes in the moment? A breakup that eventually led to meeting someone far better suited for us. Getting fired from a job that led to a far more fulfilling career somewhere else. The path to power will test us. It will ask us again and again, are you sure you really want this? The Jupiterian song is first and foremost that of opening our heart to our own wanting, our own longing, no matter how unreasonable or impractical the world may deem it to be. Where's Jupiter in your chart? Can you feel an expansive energy? For those of you who don't know astrology, what does the in-breath feel like? Imagine that image of the man jumping into the water. What is Jupiter calling you to do? Jupiter requires audacity. Are you audacious enough to allow yourself to dream of power? To believe in your ability to claim it for yourself? Jupiter wants us to bet on ourselves. It wants us to stretch our beliefs in ourselves. If $100 is doable for you, Jupiter wants to see a $500 bet, a $1,000 bet, a $10,000 bet. Jupiter's mantra is, ask and ye shall receive. As channeled entities Abraham and Bashar remind us, excitement, Jupiter's calling card, excitement is the complete kit. If we follow our highest excitement as far as we possibly can from whatever is available in the moment, without any insistence upon the outcome, we will continue to attract more of what excites us in our lives. Don't take my word for it. Oops, a little too early for that. Don't take my word for it. Try it out in your lives and see what happens. Jupiter wants us to take a chance on ourselves. Ask yourself now, are you willing? Let's look at a few celebrities whose identities, sun, and attitudes, moon, are fused with this Jupiterian quality of hope, audacity, and expansion. Recently, Kanye West did a trilogy on Netflix, and he's a sun Jupiter in the 12th, and this is what he says. It was like God said, I'm about to hand you the world. Just know, at any given moment, I could take it away from you. Jupiter inspires. It allows us to bring this quality of hope and audacity and expansion into our lives. Here's some Jupiter moon people. You can have no dominion greater or less than over yourself. Jupiter inspires. But without Saturn's commitment and perspiration, Jupiterian dreams may slip away. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now, put the foundations under them. Henry David Thoreau. Saturn, the foundation of our dreams. How many of you have practiced a physical form of yoga or any physical form that's enduring? How does it feel when you hold a posture through the physical discomfort of it? Our body is strengthened, absolutely. but something in us changes. We overcame the mental and psychological resistance to pain. We willingly chose short-term discomfort. And instead of turning that pain into suffering, we transmuted it into power. That is Saturn's contribution to our point of power, the ability to respond consciously to any stimulus that stretches us and thus transforms pain and discomfort into power. What does it require? Focus, perseverance, discipline, fortitude. In yoga, we call this tap or tapas. It literally means heat, as in the extreme pressure of heat applied to smelt pure gold. That is how we build fortitude. You may recall, a caterpillar is not yet a butterfly after the chrysalis phase. It must pump out its wings, and only then can it fly. Similarly, our gold must be extracted from the ore in which it is embedded, because gold is among noble metals. It does not corrode. Thus, Saturn asks, which of your dreams are non-corrosive? Non-corrosive to the realization that there's a limited amount of time, a limited amount of energy, and a limited amount of resources available to you. Where will you allocate them? Saturn ties in Jupiter's lesson. Which dream have you chosen to pursue? Is it your dream? Saturn gives us the ability to climb the tallest mountains, but is the one you're climbing the right mountain for you? Stephen Forrest calls Saturn the great work of our life, and further says that in pursuing the great work, Saturn asks, do you want to be depressed or exhausted? If we follow our dreams, there will be exhausting work ahead. Focus, perseverance, toil, resisting the temptation to party Saturday night when you have a big talk to give on Sunday. If our dream is to climb the mountain, but instead of training, we choose to watch movies about mountaineers, we're resigning ourselves to depression, because inspiration is no substitute for preparation. Saturn is the Lord of consequences. We reap only what we sow, and we will reap whatever we have sown. Saturn is also limits, its boundaries. Saturn asks us to prioritize. We may be able to climb multiple mountains in this life, but for which ones are we willing to burn, to endure the pressure of extreme heat? Which of our dreams is non-corrosive, our true gold? Limits illuminate our strengths. They ask us to recognize and bet on our gifts, our capabilities, instead of lamenting those we don't have. Which of your limitations can you celebrate because it takes you away from the mountains that are not yours? Let's look at some of the celebrities. Here are some of our Sun-Saturn conjunctions. Everything negative, pressures, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise, said Kobe Bryant. A Virgo Sun-Saturn conjunction in the 8th house. Here's some Moon-Saturn. Never say no. Never say I cannot. For you are infinite. All the power is within you. You can do anything. Swami Vivekananda. He has a 9th house Libra Moon Saturn. And this is the man who brought Indian spirituality to the West over 100 years ago. This is the chart of a client. If we have time, I would love to share about his story later. But for now, we're going to keep moving because I see we are already 40 minutes into our hour. What more can there be after summiting your personal Saturnian mountain? After cultivating fortitude and inner strength, we encounter the rebel. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the scepters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them for yourself. Walt Whitman. For most of human history, Saturn was the furthest of our known world, the pinnacle of our outward knowledge. Yogis and mystics of all ages and cultures have known that there is more beyond the 3D realm of Saturn. But until Uranus was discovered, there was no concrete awareness of what lay beyond. I call Uranus the rebel genius, a rebel who marches to its own unique beat, a genius who knows something of our innermost longings, a rebel genius who wants to grab the helm and make a sharp turn into the deepest longings within us. In fact, while all the other planets rotate upright, Uranus rolls at a 90-degree angle. And this rebel genius asks, how important is it to be true to yourself? Uranus arrives as flashes of insight, whispers in our heads, often dismissed as impractical, irresponsible, impossible, crazy. But it offers a way out, or rather into our hearts. An alignment and realignment mechanism. Uranus arrives as flashes of insight, whispers in our heads, often dismissed as impractical, irresponsible. I already said that part to you. But it wants us to align ourselves and our actions with our authentic passion and excitement. When we're getting it right, we want to jump out of bed every morning and fully engage our lives. Imagine driving a car without proper alignment. That's going to feel uncomfortable. Friction, loss of control, accidents. But this vehicle too needs alignment. And just like every car, we're invited to Uranus's tune-ups every 21 years, each quarter of its 84-year orbit around the sun. As astrologers, we know there's plenty of other Uranian stimulus that will happen individually, uniquely in our own charts. But these are the biggies that everyone will face. At my first Uranus square, I faced the decision to build a picture-perfect life with my high school sweetheart, or follow some mysterious longing that ached from somewhere deep within. It was a scary choice, and it wasn't easy, but I chose to follow the Uranian call and adventure into the unknown across continents and philosophies through yoga, entrepreneurism, astrology, pursuing questions and passions. Because I knew Uranus was asking, how important is it to be true to yourself? What's scary at 21 can become almost insurmountable 21 years later at 42. Now, it's what Hollywood calls the midlife crisis: career, mortgage, responsibilities to growing children and aging parents, the momentum of midlife. Now watching Bridges of Madison County and crying into our tissue boxes, or getting a younger lover, a fancier car, and a nip, a tuck. These are Hollywood's options for us. But the rebel genius won't settle for that. Uranus asks us to individuate, to reclaim our identities from those around us, friends, family, society, culture, all the externals. Not something we put on, but what we discover by molting the residue of what others have left behind. The tune-ups continue at 63, again at 84, each time with enormous pressure to conform and punishment for not conforming. It will often come from those well-intended nearest to us. They'll beseech us to compromise. And if we do, we get along. If we don't, we risk social isolation. Or worse. What if we sacrificed in the name of responsibility, financial security, keeping the peace? What price have we paid for fitting in? There's no judgment here. These are daunting questions, and there are no glib responses, only soul-searching introspection. Uranus is not about staying in a relationship or ending it, building a thriving career or a loving family, or for that matter, any prescribed one-size-fits-all path. It's simply about becoming conscious of what ignites us. To follow our path, we must have within ourselves Saturn's fortitude, an inventory of who we are and what matters to us. We must develop immunity to needing the approval of others. Without it, we may be swerved off our path, live a life of polite head nodding while something within becomes extinguished and life begins to feel meaningless. As I think back now to my 21-year-old self, I'm grateful that I followed the call into the unknown. It began my life's greatest adventure, my journey of owning my own life. Of course, being true to myself has never been a simple one and done choice. Every day I encounter forks in the road. Every day I'm pulled in different directions. But if I ever get too far from my heart, Uranus asks, how important is it to be true to yourself? Let's see how some of these celebrities have chosen to be true to themselves. Ram Dass, Aries, Sun, Uranus in the 10th. You are loved just for being who you are, just for existing. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Your shortcoming, your lack of self-esteem, physical perfection, or social and economic success, none of that matters. No one can take the love away from you, and it will always be there. We sometimes think Uranus is dissociative. It's in the mind and doesn't have much to do with the heart. But here's somebody who has the Sun-Uranus conjunction who's reminding us of that love for ourselves that we must cultivate first. Here are some Uranus moon people. A toast, Jedediah from Citizen Kane, to love on my terms. Those are the only terms anybody ever knows. His own. Orson Welles' 9th house, Aquarius moon, Uranus conjunction. Surrendering is not the giving up of something. True surrender is the total acceptance of yourself. You're not losing anything in the surrender. You're not giving up anything. Surrender means to open up your total self, to give in and let go of the things you think you're supposed to be. Just be who you are. It will see you through. Bashar. How beautifully the bid for individuation, the journey of the rebel genius Uranus, ties into the realm of Neptune. Neptune. Trust and surrender. So far, the journey has been about how we interface with the world. Uranus is even visible if you know where to look in the night sky. But beyond Uranus, it's all invisible. With Neptune, there's a turning inward, a subtler layer of reality, entirely unattached to the worldly. Neptune is the mystical realm, silent. And the more we turn inward, the louder the silence gets. Find your breath right now. Don't feel like you have to change anything. Just find it. Can you feel its silence? Neptune is slippery, not easily accessible. When I think I have some hold on it, it disappears. As I sat working on the Neptune part of the talk, I got quieter and quieter, and I just waited. I remembered Neptune is the planet of seekers, of artists and mystics, those anointed by the muse and those seeking the divine. Neptune lives as our spiritual longing, that in us which longs to know the divine, that throbbing, pulsating source of life we invoked at the beginning of this talk. Neptune's function is to dissolve our boundaries, make us porous, increase our sensitivity beyond the 3 dimensions. To enter those realms, we need Neptunian guides. We need to prepare ourselves, our vessel. Saturn work. Again, the work we have done with the other planets serves as the foundation. This is where, faith in ourselves is transformed into faith in the divine. This is where we surrender everything we believe we've gained, all of our stories, and recognize that we are simply energy. Everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get the reality. Get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein restating the law of attraction. That which is like unto itself is drawn. From Neptune and beyond, we begin the process of merging into our essential nature. This is where we release the helm of the ship that we have so painstakingly earned the right to hold. As Luke Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 4, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, this is where Luke hears the voice of his deceased teacher, Obi-Wan Kenobi, to let go of the controls and trust the Force. With Neptune, I invite silence. I wait for it to reveal itself and maybe just bathe in that silence and allow it to wipe me clean. Here are some Sun Neptune people. Are you surprised to see Warren Buffett among them? Circumstances do not determine your state of being. Your state of being determines your circumstances. In the long run, the sharpest weapon of all is a kind and gentle spirit, Anne Frank. Both of these Neptunian people, you can feel that compassion in this quote especially. How do you plan a rebirth? I'm not sure you do. You just stand in the darkness until you can't endure it any longer. And then you move forward until you're standing in the light. Questlove. Pluto, death and transformation. In entering Pluto's realm, we are cautioned. Once again, we are asked to surrender. Pluto will strip us completely bare. The hope that brought us here, that too must be burned away. This is the hottest of all fires, the fire from which the phoenix rises. A few years ago, I was in an experiential Pluto class. Someone was sharing a personal transformation he was undergoing in the face of a recurring, frightening trauma trigger, AKA a Plutonian stimulus. As he described his experience, a Plutonian taboo surfaced within me. And instead of the heat of shame and the knee-jerk response to stuff it back down, I felt exhilarated, enlivened, effervescent, like a bursting bottle of champagne. I saw in my mind's eye the floor of a dark cave pivoting sideways, revealing a bright golden light streaming upward. Something in me knew that I was ready to release shame, to integrate that part of myself back into the whole, and that this was just the tip of the iceberg. More integration was coming. I welcomed it. For too long, I had stuffed parts of myself inside, and here was the glow of the gold within. I spent the entire day in that effervescence, full of energy, bubbling over. Do you recognize that feeling? Have you experienced that energizing feeling of releasing a tightly held and feared taboo? Like exhaling after unknowingly holding your breath? Maybe it was when you dropped a long-held judgment of yourself. Maybe you experienced that feeling after a particularly poignant astrological reading. Can you access that feeling now? That is what we're after. That's the power I've been talking about. The power we invest in locking up our taboos in Pluto's cave inhibits this effervescence, this vitality, our arrows. And what is the point of life if not to reclaim this sweet, joyful, energizing feeling of vitality, of aliveness? Isn't that the true fountain of youth? The holy grail of every mythic quest? Pluto, the lord of the underworld, of hell. Needless to say, that's the fiery hot intensity of shame, guilt, fear, the wounds inflicted and experienced, sexual kinks, blasphemous beliefs, not a realm to be approached callously. Too much, too fast, and it could debilitate a person. In order to survive, some amount of repression is built into our system. I don't imagine we'd have a repression capability if it weren't necessary. But when Plutonian trauma resurfaces, it offers transformation, redemption, not just pain. If you have planets in any fixed signs, early fixed signs, Pluto is squaring them now. You are in the midst of this transformation. What else lies under the world? The riches we have to dig for: gold, diamonds, oil. Pluto rules them all. Thus, Pluto is known as the Lord of Riches. Pluto transits bring the possibility of healing, of reclaiming our life force. What greater riches can we hope for? When Pluto shows up, it's time for honesty, bare, naked honesty. In repressing our feelings, we repress our light, our inner light, the light of our sun. Sun, the source of power in our entire solar system and in our birth chart, our personal source of power. Our built-in, self-driving, energy-producing mechanism. We are here to reclaim that. I won't ask you what Pluto is asking you now, but when I think about Pluto, the way I invoke Pluto is to ask myself, have I done everything I came here to do? If death knocks on my door tomorrow, have I done what I wanted to be doing? Here are some celebrities, which I have to get rid of myself from here. Okay. Here's some celebrities who have Sun Pluto. It is nothing to die. It is frightful not to live. Victor Hugo, a fourth house, Pisces, Venus, Pluto, Sun conjunction. This is Alan Turing, Emma Stone, Kate Winslet, and Usher. Use your fear. It can take you to the place where you store your courage. Amelia Earhart, second house, Gemini, Moon, Pluto. In the lives of most of us alive today, Neptune and Pluto harmonize. Sometime around 1942, Neptune fell into a sextile configuration with Pluto, and they stayed within orb of that sextile configuration, mutually stimulating each other for all the years since. They'll disengage from that embrace sometime soon, but until they do, it's hard to separate their mutual influence on not just us individually, but our whole society, which means that our psychological reckoning, Pluto, is inseparable from our spiritual evolution, Neptune. We cannot pursue one without the other. The story of a Jain warrior king turned yogi named Bahubali depicts this relationship between Neptune and Pluto. Because it mythologizes a being who lived a long time ago, the story has many forms. My preferred source is Sadhguru. Once upon a time, there lived an ambitious warrior king. After many wars, including one against his own brother, he came awake to the death and destruction he was causing and stopped. He stood still with complete attention and deep meditation. For 1 year or 14 years, the lore is unclear. Through the intensity of his practice, many attachments dropped. The man who wanted to conquer the world stood there, ready to bow down to the smallest crawling creature. But he did not get enlightened. He stood silent, not knowing why. One day, an enlightened yogi came and looked at Bahubali. Bahubali held his silence, packing all his questions and longing into a single teardrop. This enlightened yogi understood Bahubali's question. I have renounced my kingdom, my palace, my comforts. I bow to the smallest insect. What more do I have to do? And the yogi answered, you have become a wonderful human being. You can bow even to an insect. But are you willing to bow down to your brother? Gone are the days when we can be angry, an angry sage, harboring judgment and hate, and expect to attain moksha, nirvana. There's no release, no freedom without a full inner reckoning. Bahubali, now conscious, attained. Some say he went to Mount Kailash, processed through his relationship with his brother, and attained. Others say he attained instantly upon realizing the final blockage. While I have yet to attain, in my experience, Neptune and Pluto fuel each other. By enrolling Neptune, we allow the divine to carry us through Plutonian fires. Sometimes a particularly difficult emotional stimulus is softened and melted away through spiritual practice. Other times, the willingness to face my shadow and inner demons allows me to settle deep into meditation, more easily access that silence. By harnessing the power of both, we accelerate, we catalyze the process of reclaiming our personal power, our inborn vitality, our eros. Make no mistake, in our bid for personal power, we are signing up to encounter and integrate all of this, but we are not alone. We have the guidance and guardianship of astrology and all those who held it aloft before us. Reclaiming our point of power is not always easy, nor is it always linear. It's a path that we will likely have to commit to over and over again, make room for starts and stops, spirals, repeat lessons, meander through mundane and intense inner and outer terrain. But the reward. Sadhguru once asked us a question in a retreat. For what would you be willing to give all of the effort of your entire life? For what thing would you do that? Would it be for your personal power? We started this talk remembering the price paid by astrologers for their heresy of seeing what is, the heresy of continuing to tend the flame that burns away our shackles, that offers tools to become the authors of our lives. Of course, they were punished. Their counsel helped people reclaim personal power. How is that going to help the regime maintain control? In seeking power, we commit heresy in the eyes of anyone who wants to control us. How many attacks does astrology endure even today? And yet it survives. It thrives because this thing, this magnificent, beautiful craft that has chosen us to tend its flame, it works. Power is self-awareness plus conscious response. Astrology can accelerate the process of self-awareness, but you get to decide how you will respond. Isn't that amazing? Yesterday, I was so clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. Rumi. My dear friends, if you have enjoyed this talk, or if you think I can make it better, I've created a simple survey to receive your feedback at howbelow.com/OPA. There, you can also sign up to be on my mailing list. And in the next few months, I'll be offering a workshop on the current Saturn-Neptune co-presence in Pisces. The workshop will be experiential. We'll reflect, brainstorm, invoke the planets through our imagination, and figure out how best to employ this energy in preparation for the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries in 2026. For those who complete the survey, you will have my gratitude, and along with that, a Spotify playlist for the Saturn-Neptune in Pisces and my recent article in the Evolving Astrologer on the same subject. I really do hope to hear from you. I'd like to thank Christelle and Jeff for hosting me today and for OPA for creating this gathering. I wish you all happy travels on your personal path to reclaiming your point of power. And I hope that our paths continue to cross. Thank you so much.
Wow, Meghna, that was mesmerizing, very powerful, very therapeutic, very healing. Thank you so much for presenting such a beautiful presentation today. Thank you. You've done OPA justice. Mercury hour, this is what it's about. Everybody,
I agree.
thank you so much for being here. Do we have any questions? There were some really lovely comments and interactions. Any questions? Somebody said very healing, exactly. Beautiful. Great talk, Meg. Thank you for your brilliance. Wonderful presentation. There are many insights that I enjoyed. Amazing.
Thank you so much, everyone. It means a lot to me to be received in this community, and for all of you for giving my voice a place. It's yeah, it just fills me up. Thank you.
Jeff, just to clarify, so everybody will be sent this presentation, right, via email?
Yes. So the way it works, and Laura, I think, I'm not sure if Laura's still here or not, but regardless, in order for a non-member to watch this event, they just have to register on the website to watch it. And that includes putting in their email address so that they can get an email from us with the recording link to watch it. They are on YouTube, but they're unlisted. So they're not just going to show up for anyone. Therefore, you need the link in order to see it. That could change. I spoke with Robert, and he said that there has been talk of perhaps changing this. So we'll see what happens in the future. But for now, you need to register, and that will get you, an email with the link in it. So when this is over, that recording link will be sent to everyone here, and that should be sent probably by the end of today in America, in the United States. But I just expect it probably within the next 12 to 24 hours. And so, Meghna, thank you very much. I agree with everyone here. It was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Your pace is wonderful also. Really helps integrate. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
So in the Q&A, it says someone had asked a question about retrograde planets. So I'm going to go back and see if I can quickly find it.
Oh, yes. So somebody was wondering, I do remember that, Christelle.
Okay, perfect.
When you were talking about the celebrities, I think that they were wondering, first of all, somebody had asked whether or not you were only talking about conjunctions or whether you were talking about, any strong aspects, squares, oppositions. And then an additional question, and I'm not sure if it was the same person, was wondering, what if you have, retrograde Jupiter conjunct the moon, or retrograde Saturn conjunct, the sun, or whatever? And would you delineate that in any specific way as a retrograde as opposed to direct? Of course, that's, maybe another 20-minute conversation, but.
Well, I can give you a quick shorty on that. One, they're only conjunctions, first of all, because and conjunctions are not the only things that'll influence us. There's angles. I mean, as astrologers, we know that we have to look at the whole picture. The thing I wanted to do was just, the conjunctions are such a fusion of the energy that, when you have a sun Jupiter or sun Saturn, you're going to see it in everything this person does. It's like Saturn and Jupiter have become, Saturn and sun, or Uranus and sun, or whatever else, has almost become a singular thing inside of them, and depends on the orb. I tried to choose like under 4 or 5 degree orb, and I found so many people, so I just picked a few. But I got all my data from astrotheme.com. So if you want to go in there and look up celebrity aspects, they give you lots of options. They tell you you can define the orb, you can define the aspect. So if you want to do your own research, I'd welcome you to go there. In terms of retrograde planets, recently my friend Ashwin, who is actually on here, an Indian astrologer, gave me a perspective on retrograde planets that I absolutely loved. And he kind of compared it to an archer who, it's like retrograde planets are the ones that are pulling the bow back, ready for the release. And so preparing for the release. And I imagine that those of us who have progressions going on, some of us might have had an early retrograde planet. So the whole of our life is most likely going to be that pulling of the bow back and aiming properly. For others of us, we'll be at station. So we'll be just about to release the arrow. And for some of us, it'll be somewhere in the middle of that process. And I just love the way that that does it, that Ashwin explained it to me. The other one I'd like to also, that I also really like with retrograde is retrograde planets are kind of trial and error planets. And I heard that from Tom Jacobs many years ago. And I really like that interpretation too. It's that, and it ties in really well with the bow and arrow piece too, because when we have retrograde planets, they're kind of operating slightly differently than they did. And so there's this figuring out how we want to express them. And the last thing I want to say about retrograde planets is that when planets go retrograde, astronomically, they're the closest they are to the Earth. So in some ways, maybe they're even louder inside of us, and they're calling our name even louder because they're like, this one, focus here. So those are a few takes on it, and see which fits for you. I like to think of myself as an experiential astrologer. And as you've heard, my interpretations are also not, I mean, I think of Saturn as like one of my dearest friends. And I know that, traditionally he's the greater malefic, but I think it's like when we feel into them, when we spend time with them individually, they give us so much. They give us so much. I've done rituals for the different planets with myself, observed them over time within my own self and with other people in my life. And they're just here to give us all of the gifts that our chart has. They just have their own ways of doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Hopefully that answers that person's question. It looked like Ron had a question. Ron, if you can either text it or type it in the chat box or put it in the Q&A, that'd be great.
And I just want to respond to Marlene. Yes, Marlene, some of the charts that you mentioned, astrodeans.com or astro.com, will have a Rodden rating. Most of us who are astrologers will know that a Rodden rating will tell you whether the data is reliable. The quotes I've used, I checked to make sure that they were AA or A rated charts. But the other celebrity pieces, I haven't checked all of them. So if you go to astro.com and type into their search bar any celebrity name, it'll tell you a Rodden rating for them. And I try to only quote people who have A or AA rating charts. And just for those of you who don't know what a Rodden rating is, it just tells you whether they got the information, how they got the information of the chart, because sometimes birth times are conflicting or we get them from hearsay, especially with historical figures.
And especially the charts where you're referring to the moon conjunct an outer planet, because with the sun,
Exactly.
it's more likely going to be, if it's not very hard to find out the actual birth date of most people. So, but birth time, yeah, with the moon.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, sure.
Just before we close, sorry, just to double check, Irene, I've just checked this link and it seems to be working. Thanks, Osman, for providing the link, because there was an issue with that initially, wasn't there?
Yeah, thank you.
We're good.
Yes.
Okay, it's working. It's working.
And I see Remy here. How do you advise to tune into the planets when you wake up in the morning? Remy, what I like to do sometimes is when I wake up, and this is not as regular a practice as I would like it to be, but it helps, especially if I have to wake up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I wake up from a dream, I write the dream down, and I pay attention to where the moon is. And I will see if the dream or the characters in the dream are reflective of the moon's position, phase, and placement in my personal natal chart, as well as in the sky of the place where I am. I was born in India, so I live in a relocated chart my entire life. And it's almost like a giant flip of my chart. So the moon is the best place to do it because it moves so quickly. Sometimes I'll pay attention to the angles, because the angles, especially if they're coinciding with my natal planet. And then, it's just like whatever day it is. If it's Monday, it's the moon. If it's Tuesday, it's Mars. Invoke them in that way, and experiment. Find your own ritual. See what feels right to you. Maybe it's like the time of year for you that's going to be like, every time the sun moves into a different sign, I'm going to pay attention to the sun. Or every time I'm in spring, I'm going to be much more conscious of the spring signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. And then when it moves into summer, I'm going to go into Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. So play with it, experiment.
Thank you, Meghna. You have so many compliments. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So any last words before we close? Any more questions, guys? Just conscious of time as well.
I just want to say one last thing. I forgot to mention it, if you don't mind, you guys. With the OPA retreat that's coming up in October, I mentioned the dates, October 16th to 21st. If you go to opaastrology.org, you can find out everything there is to know about it. And just to let you know, also, their early bird pricing, current pricing has been extended till May 15th instead of the end of April. So you have a couple of weeks here to lock in that cheaper pricing. And you can share rooms with people. So if you'd like to arrange that, you can contact Angelina from the OPA website.
And just to piggyback on that, Jeff, I'm in the middle of my first peer group right now, and I have to say it's been such a wonderful experience. I think it would be even sweeter if I had had a chance to do it in person and talk to people. So it's actually I'm even considering going to the retreat, but it's just have to figure out the schedule and all of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I've experienced an in-person and an online peer group, and I will be completing my certification process in October with Arlen for in-person peer group. So I too have experienced both, and it is special to do it in person, but it's been special online as well. It really is. It's kind of OPA's signature program that's applied towards certification, and it started with, just back in the old days, the OPA board, the OPA leaders, these astrologers just wanted to get together and talk about their experiences with giving consultations to others. And it just kind of was a gathering for a conversation, but it's evolved into a process that really helps people develop their practice as well as their professionalism, their business, and their website and so on. So it's all encompassing. So
yeah, sounds like a really beautiful opportunity for sure.
For sure.
It is. Yeah. And you get to see 4 different astrologers give 4 very different kinds of readings, and then you get a response, and it's been really remarkable. So I would highly recommend it for those of you who are doing it. I'm blown away at how much we've already done in just 4 sessions, and we'll have 2 more before the end of the group. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm just really confused why there's an error on your link. This one worked for me, guys.
I wonder if it's the browser. Sometimes, I don't know for sure, but occasionally there's an issue if somebody's trying to use Safari instead of Chrome or whatever browser you use. You might want to, if you have access to another browser, try it in a different one. I don't know if that's the case, Meghna, but it seems like some people get it and some people don't.
I'm using Chrome. No, I'm using Safari. I'm using Safari, and that link that I just posted is working for me in Safari. I did just throw this, change the page and kind of put it together yesterday. So if you can't find it there, you can just email me.
Oh, perfect. That's a good idea.
Because that will work. Send me an email, wonder@howbelow.com, and I will respond to you and send you the link to the survey and get you the playlist. And thank you for doing it.
I don't think we do personal questions, unfortunately, but feel free to contact Meghna via email if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Jeff, am I right in saying that personal questions we don't really cover?
Yeah. I think it's best to email Meghna privately for that.
Cool. On that note, everybody, thank you so much for your presence and your time, Meghna. You were amazing, Jeff. You're a star. Until next time, everybody.
You too, Christelle. Let's just
absolutely
acknowledge.
Christelle. Yeah.
And this is Christelle's first time hosting. I think she's a pro already. Congratulations.
Oh no, I've got work to do. But amazing. Have a good day, good night, good evening, and all the best. Until
Thank you,
next time,
everybody. Thank
everybody.
you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
both.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.